to Tokenverse podcast series, where we bring together creators, blockchain specialists, investors, intellectuals, and experts to brainstorm the potential and future of Web3 technologies. This production is brought to us by DoinGud, an NFT marketplace empowering creators and connecting people who want to do good across the world. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the fact that the World Wide Web code has just been auctioned, and what does it mean for mainstream adoption of NFTs. We are very lucky to have a very experienced and eloquent guest. First, I'm going to start with artist and curator Carolina Magnusson-Murray, who is a moving image and performance artist, but she's also the head of art at department at Fold Night. It is one of the most exciting clubs in London. She's also is curating the series called Future Shock, which is going to tell us about in a second. But I also wanted to include one interesting fact about Carolina, which is not about her professional work, that she's got a tattoo, funny tattoo on her feet. Is it Carolina saying Richard? What's the story there?
Yeah. When I was little, me and my ex-boyfriend bought a tattoo gun and tattooed each other's names on our feet.
Since then, you got many more exciting tattoos.
Yeah,
I believe.
That was
we also have here Chris McCann, who is an investor but also a photographer. So he's a general partner at Race Capital. He's also a licit investor in projects such as Solana, FTX, and many other. He's also an award-winning National Geographic photographer. He's based in San Francisco Bay Area, and he's exploring the intersection of photography, technology, and digital assets. One interesting fact about Chris is that with his family, he spent 3 months in freezing temperatures, minus 26 degrees, and this was above Japan, Hokkaido, is it?
Yeah, Hokkaido. So yeah, it's the island kind of north of Japan, and we were way out there, closer to like the Russia kind of area too.
Fantastic, thank you. And finally, we joined by the founder of DoinGud, activist and solarpunk humanist. He found NFT platform that I introduced before. But Manu, you were a political activist in Venezuela. How come you're not in prison, but you are in Barcelona now?
Well, I actually escaped. They tried to capture me a couple of times. They couldn't do it. They actually once tried to kidnap me, and they took the wrong person. And then actually my family decided to send me out of the country. When that started, they started to call my family quite a lot and tell them that they were going to kill me and kidnap me and stuff like that. So yeah, basically I had to leave the country, and yeah, just by luck I'm here.
Yeah, lucky that you're alive. And can you broadcast yourself from the prison in Venezuela?
Oh, come on.
Okay.
And
maybe you should campaign for that they facilitate, meetings like this. Okay, but anyway, we have lots of things to discuss today, and I wanted to start with a little bit of a introduction, and maybe Carolina, can you explain us, because what you're doing is quite fascinating, because you're doing your own art. But also, can you explain us what you're doing in Fold, which is actually a nightclub, but you curating art nights and art events there?
Yeah. So I started the arts platform of Fold. So we developed it to kind of in conjunction with the club, because we normally have so many artists that work within the club, but people don't understand how many artists actually work to build the club up. And there's visual artists, audio visual artists, incredible musicians, so we built this platform to kind of to showcase what a nightclub has to offer other than just parties, basically. So yeah, we developed the arts platform, which is called Future Shark, which is a not-for-profit organization, strand to Fold. And yeah, since I started, we've done loads of different exhibitions, performance nights, and we're planning to do this large-scale, like, immersive exhibition next year, which will involve like all our resident artists as well as like other artists that like are within our wider network. And it's an interdisciplinary platform. So the idea that it isn't just like within like fine art, which is my background, and moving image and performance, but it actually incorporates like classical music, experimental, like, and then experimental music, experimental electronic music, and also interactive design. But we partner with this university, UCL Here East campus, which is close to us, and they are actually developing like a pop-up show in September, which will have more like interactive art and design that's built for performances. And so within that, there's like, it's kind of quite like high tech like course. So within that, we can like develop more partnerships with them and be able to exchange like ideas and yeah, technologies, so that we, our artists can also learn from that as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, although your work kind of marries art and technology, you're not super familiar with the world of NFTs, but can you tell us from your experience, what's the word on the street, like in your circles? Like, do people see NFTs as more of a challenge or opportunity?
Well, it actually, I may feel like in quite an interesting position because of my fine art background, like I kind of stray between two different worlds. And I feel like more from the side of audiovisual and like our resident artist at the club, for instance, Joelle, she creates audiovisual art that's perfect for NFTs. So she's really heavily gone into that side of things. But then my background and artists that are involved, a more like fine art background, are quite like wary of it. Like I would say, especially, I mean, I don't have much knowledge, and I feel like I'm only just starting to try to research into that side of things, and mainly because of Joelle. But yeah, I would say that people are wary of it, and especially the kind of like this environmental side related to like Bitcoin and Ethereum and that kind of thing. People have very limited knowledge as well, and don't really understand how they can make money from it. So, but Joelle's made quite a lot of money. It really, I think it really depends. Yeah,
I think that's what we're here for, to educate and let people know how they can, get their art out there and make lots of money like Joelle. And I was wondering, Chris, because you're both creator and investor, so your first experience with NFTs, was it as a creator or as an investor?
I guess neither. Sort of just a user. I mean, yeah, the whole concept of NFTs was really created and spearheaded by this project a long time ago called CryptoKitties, which people might be familiar with. The project wanted to put cats on the blockchain, just like there's cats on the internet. People on the internet love cats, and they wanted these unique cats with unique features. And so you couldn't use a regular ERC20 token because it's completely fungible. You wouldn't have like a unique representation of it. And so they created what would become the ER721 standard, which are, each one of these things are unique, indivisible items, which became kind of 721 objects, now what we colloquially call NFTs, or non-fungible assets. And maybe just taking a step back, like some people get confused by fungible and non-fungible. The easiest way to think about it is a fungible token is one where you don't care who has what. So if you have $1 or I have $1, you don't really care which dollar it is. You're completely fine with both of them. Versus a non-fungible is a unique asset. So if you have a Chihuahua and I have a Chihuahua, you kind of care which one it is. I can't give you my pet and you give me your pet and you're okay with it. It's our pet. It's our unique thing. It's our unique object. You can't. It's not divisible. So yeah, this concept has been in the crypto space for a long time, even though it's come into popularity now. Like people have been building projects, building things, building assets, trying things in the gaming space, in the art space. So it's been a concept that's been there for kind of a long time.
And when it comes to like paintings or photography, I think it's kind of straightforward when it comes to the subject of NFTs. But as we mentioned, and the subject of this podcast is like auctioning code and what's next. And Manu, perhaps you can explain us what actually happened with this code auctioning, because even the guy who did it himself, what's his name? Barney, right? But Ben is his name. Ben is Lee, isn't he? And then he said, "I'm not even selling the source code. I'm selling a picture I made with a Python program that I wrote myself of what the source code would look like if it was stuck on a wall and signed by me." So Manu, yeah, can you comment on that? What actually is he selling?
To be completely honest with you, I have no clue exactly what he's selling. But I heard that many people were complaining about that. Actually, I'm showing my screen. I don't know if Alejo, if you can put it there. I want to show a couple of things. I don't know if you, Alejo, can you please help me out and show? I'm sharing my screen. I want to show what actually was written in the code. There are mistakes. There are mistakes in the code, which is insane. And it was sold for over $5.4 million, which is kind of weird. Yeah, maybe Alejo can help us out.
Do you think he made the mistakes on purpose, or is it just an accident?
I think it was an accident. I think they tried to export the code, and here they were supposed to be they were supposed to be like these things that open and close, and essentially, as you can see, they're not there. I think that they exported the code, and when they exported the code, it was wrong exported, and essentially, like at least this is the picture that they had when the auction was happening. So yeah, I honestly don't really know what is this exactly that they're selling. It's supposed to be the file, I think, that was created, but I have no idea. Maybe this picture that they had when they were doing the auction is not necessarily even what is being sold either. Maybe this was just the code they decompressed, and maybe they just took a screenshot of it and they put it on the thumbnail of the sale. But to be completely honest, I really don't know what is it that is being sold there.
So you wouldn't have it on your platform? I'm doing good.
Well, that's a good question. At the end of the day, like, we are enabling creators to sell whatever type of creation they want to sell.
There's no policing.
No, not at all. The policing is where it's coming. The policing, let's say, is in the curator level. So we're going to have like a multi-gallery system. So each gallery is going to curate the content that they want to put in their own gallery. So they are kind of like the verifiers that this content is actually genuine, and that is actually who they say they are, and it's not like a scammer or so on. So discoverability will depend on the galleries themselves. Also, obviously, that you can still post it on your own profile, like as you do it on any social media, as on Instagram or whatever. But this discoverability is going to be limited, so you will have it only on your profile. And if you want to have like a big discoverability, there needs to be a gallery that is actually promoting that for you.
Carolina, does it resonate with you being a creator? Do you see it as such a platform with these type of devices as an opportunity for what you're doing?
Potentially, yeah. I think it depends. It really depends, because at the moment, I suppose it's like limited to, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, limited to a short clip or a short amount of time. So it feels like, unless you want to make work that is that way and that can fit into that format for now, like, but my work, maybe I could like figure out a way to do that. But then, yeah, unless maybe you could create like films into NFTs eventually or something, that would kind of make more sense to me. But
Yeah, there's a lot of limitation currently when it comes to the size of the files and so on. But I personally think that in the future, there's going to be solutions for storing all of these different type of media. There are solutions like Airwave and also Filecoin that enables you to store in a decentralized manner all these type of media, let's say, and hopefully we're going to be able to support that as well.
Yeah, like the ideology behind it interests me, but at the same time, like, does it, like the idea of like decentralization and giving power to the individual artists to be able to make money individually is interesting to me, but yeah, it depends. I really think it depends what you're making, I suppose.
Yeah. And Chris, when you put yourself in your investor shoes, how important is it for you, the actual subject of the NFT world and its representation?
Yeah, I think it's important to a non-fungible token, a unique asset. It's a generalizable concept. It's not applicable to art or anything specific. It's just like it's a container that can be used for many different things. And there's different categories of NFTs that are kind of more common that we see out there. Maybe it'd be helpful just to walk through all of them really quickly. There's 4 kind of main ones. So one, you have the pure digital NFT art themselves. Think like CryptoPunks or CryptoKitties or any of like the animation type stuff where the actual artwork itself lives on the blockchain itself. And so the NFT is the representation of it, and it's the actual ownership of it. Because again, it's actually living natively on the chain itself. The second one is you have more of the NFT representation. This would be more like photography. So if I take a picture, I create an NFT object from it, and I sell that as like a one-on-one thing, you're not necessarily buying the photograph itself, because again, it's kind of a physical thing that hangs on the wall. You're buying this digital representation that comes from the artist. And this would be similar to Tim Berners-Lee in the World Wide Web. Like, you're not buying the code, you're buying this representation of what he's portraying and what you're doing. You're not buying the source code, you're buying this digital signature. A third one, which again, it's good to just keep in mind, like outside of the art world, is you have more of these playable NFTs. So think like Axie Infinity and like the characters that you can play with. So the NFT is an object that you're actually using. It's like a productive asset. So you can use it in a game, you could use it to stake, you could use it to do other things, but it's actually a thing that you kind of carry along with you. And then there's the most fascinating one is like the NFTs as the economic right. So think like if you are an LP, a liquidity provider in something like Uniswap in their V3 representation, your representation of your LP interest, your economic right, comes back to you in the format of an NFT. So the NFT is it's not an artistic thing. It's not anything. It's a purely money generating object. And that thing could actually be traded and sold and bought and fractionalized and all that. So again, sometimes I think it's helpful to also keep in mind like these different categories of NFTs. And it's not always just pure artistic art. In even artistic art, it's not like a singular thing. Sometimes it could have very different meanings across each other.
I think in the mass conscious is everybody thinks that NFTs are representing art, but as you pointed out, it doesn't have to be like this. And also there is talk about properties on NFTs, right, as well, right?
Yeah. I was going to mention, it's like a more weird one, but yeah, I have a friend who's doing a project who's putting so you have 2 kinds. So one, you have like title property. So like actual real world, he's doing land. So land objects, and you're taking the title of it and you're fractionalizing that as an NFT. It's closer to like an economic right thing because that's actually the representation of the title for the land itself. And then you have the more weird concept of like digital land, So think like any of like the metaverse things or whatever, where the land itself is actually the digital object itself, which can also be tradable and all that. So again, I tried to do the more simplistic ones, but like, again, in the crypto space, there's a lot of people experimenting with very, very, very different concepts of this, which again, to me, from both like the creator side and the investor side, I think is super cool, because, you know, we as creators and artists, we can try, we can experiment, we can do things. Like, none of this stuff is set in stone. None of this stuff has been formalized. All of it is kind of up for grabs.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we've got a slide about the use cases, and so Manu is going to present it and maybe talk about them a little bit as well.
Oh, I just saw that I was muted. Okay, so yeah, as Chris was saying, that there's so many different use cases. You know, like one is art, another one is music, another one could be moments. Other ones could be like the digital representation of any type of asset that you have created, but also physical representation of physical goods or experiences as well. It could be, you know, tickets for events. It could be even virtual worlds or virtual land or stores. It could be also rewards. It could be proof of impact. It could be even proof of attendance, or it could be even a diploma. After you completed, let's say, a course. Also, an NFT can be used as the key for opening, let's say, gated content or paywalls, or even could be a certificate of authenticity as well.
What do you mean by gated content or paywalls?
Yeah. So as you know, like, for example, Patreon has this way that if you pay, you're able to access different content. So imagine that by having an NFT on your MetaMask wallet, you come to a website, and the website is actually reading what you have on your wallet, and based on your holdings, if you have the NFT that can unlock the content, then that will happen. Or maybe you can have an NFT that, for example, has a Zoom link, and only when you come to this Zoom link and you have, let's say, this NFT on your wallet, then you can access this Zoom room, let's say.
But then you actually don't own the things that you're going to be watching, but you just own this key, right?
Yeah. It's just it's a gated. It's a key for opening gates, let's say, as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Carolina, does it make sense?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, sometimes, again, it's hard to remember because it's such a generalized concept, but the NFT doesn't imply ownership per se. It's just something that is unique. And it could be like a 1-for-1 unique thing. It could be a 5 for 5, 10 for 10, 100 for 100, 1 million for the factors on how unique you want this thing to be is up to the ultimate creator, the person that births the asset itself. But again, it's a very generalized concept that can be applicable for many, many things, like Manu just mentioned.
And
yeah,
Carolina,
another thing that I've seen lately is that, you know, people are coming together based on their holdings. So, for example, there are Discord servers or Telegram servers that you can join based on the NFT that you hold. So, for example, you have the CryptoPunks Discord group. So you can only enter it if you have, let's say, a CryptoPunk. So
it's kind of like the NFT comes with the goodie bag, and in the goodie bag there is like a link for Discord.
Yeah. So essentially what it means is that NFTs are keys for something. Can become a key for something. It can be a key for getting in touch with your creator via WhatsApp or whatever. It can be used for so many different things. The cool thing about the NFTs is that it's giving, for the first time, the tools to creators to kind of have a direct connection with their collectors or with their fan base. On Instagram or on YouTube or on any social media, you own nothing. You don't own the followers that you have. Here, with the NFT, you don't necessarily own your follower, but you know there's provenance, so you know who is the person that owns your NFT, and you can give them access based on that. So for the first time, creators can own their fan base and own the people that are actually supporting them.
And so I'm just wondering if, like, all these options that we just talked about, is the art community aware of this? So, Carolina, from what you know in your entourage, like, do you think the artists you're working with are, aware of all these options that NFT could be?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I didn't know. So, and obviously, I can't speak for a lot of people, but yeah, I think. Yeah, there's limited knowledge, and I think I suppose it's just at the beginning, and yeah, people don't know that much. So yeah. I didn't know any of that.
To be fair, for most people, even inside the crypto system, building all this stuff is new for a lot of people as well. Like it's not like everybody has all this stuff figured out. To Manu's comment, maybe to personalize a little bit. I'm part of this. I guess again, the lines really blur on a lot of this stuff too. But I guess I could say I'm part of this bigger DAO called the Jenny DAO. So it's the UJenny token. So to become part of this and become part of the group and have access to the Discord server, like Manu was mentioning, I have to show proof of ownership of one of the tokens itself. And then the whole point of this DAO is this DAO has like a big treasury. I think there's like $8 or $10 million in there. And then the treasury goes to buy other NFTs to increase its holding within the DAO itself. So people have discussions on what they want to purchase, cool artists coming up, how they want to do it, what should be in the collection, what shouldn't be in the collection. And again, it's cool because you can give all those decisions up to the community that actually holds and makes decisions for this. So you can say, hey, you collector group, you get to decide. So the group and community collectively decides what they want to do. There's no CEO, there's no founder, there's nobody deciding. It's literally the collective group that does it.
So, Carolina, as an artist, can you see yourself using any of those features, or do you have any questions about what have been said?
I feel like it seems like there's so many options and there's so much to research and so much to find out. It feels quite like daunting to know, like, how do you navigate that? Like, where do you want to start? Like, should I buy something? Do I want to get into some kind of group? Like, should I make something? Should I and then also obviously there's that side of things where how easy is it to get onto a platform to be able to sell your stuff? Like, if you're already making work that's perfect for that kind of sphere, then maybe you're more likely to be able to sell. But if you're not, is it actually just pointless? Like, make work that's kind of sellable now, or collectors want it. So it seems quite like there's a lot to try to understand or work out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the good thing about it is that, there's no rules, is that actually you can do whatever the heck you want. I've seen creators like Blau. He actually did something really cool. He auctioned an NFT that essentially it was a 101, and the person that won it was able to put the name of the song of his next release. So essentially he was bringing the fan base in the creation process as well, So the fan that collected the NFT put the name of the song, and that name is across Spotify, across YouTube, and so on, and it was created by the fan. So, like, you can engage with your fan base, and they can be part of the creation process as well.
Yeah. Well, there's so many options, but it also can be intimidating, right?
Yeah.
And I can see.
I'd say from a more tangible perspective, like anybody listening, if you're curious about this but don't know where to start, I would suggest doing something very just start simply. So maybe one on the most basic level, just go and look at a bunch of this stuff. Again, you can look at OpenSeas or Rareables or whatever. Don't do anything. Just look at a bunch of these, play with them, see what's out there. Two, if you wanted to get a little bit more serious, buy an NFT. Again, it doesn't have to be something crazy. Buy something on DoinGud where you could actually give back in a way. You don't need to spend a lot. Just buy one of these. And again, by doing that, you will have to go through the process of setting up a wallet, understanding gas fees, knowing how to actually hold the thing, worrying about custody and all that. And then third, if you're on the creator side, you should actually try to go through the full process of creating an NFT. So from start to finish, taking whatever your artistic medium is, photography, dance, music, doesn't matter, but try to actually create one of these. And again, don't worry so much about selling it or trying to get a high price or anything, but just go through the entire process of creating one of these things from scratch. And again, from there, then you can start to kind of go down the rabbit hole of whatever your interest is, your community is, or if you find a DAO that you like, or a group of people or whatever. But just start very simply, but like actually go through the process of doing this, because when you do that, you'll learn so much more than just reading about it or thinking about it theoretically.
But even when we're talking about creating it, there is different approaches from what you just said, because you can create NFT, which is like NFT, like just lying on the blockchain, like CryptoKitty, as you said. You can do NFT, which is a representation of something, like a painting. So Carolina could use like one of her, you do paintings too, Carolina, don't you?
Yeah.
So you could just sell a representation of your painting, or you could do something which is almost like a conceptual kind of like NFT, where you kind of, like this selling the code was, auctioning the code was like basically there was a subject, but the representation of it, it's actually something completely else, it's completely different, and there is a concept of like, it's how it's represented, right?
Yeah, there's of course many options. Again, I would suggest, if you're trying to learn this for the first time, start with something simple. So do like a digital representation of some. Again, this is more for like the creators themselves, a little bit less for like the pure collectors. But whatever you're creating naturally, whatever you're interested in, could be a painting, could be photography, could be whatever, and then just use that as an image to do it. It does get a little bit more complex if you're trying to do unlockable content or group ownership. I would probably not suggest starting with stuff like that. Again, until you're more familiar with kind of how all the underlying infrastructure works, then of course 100% you should go and experiment with all that. I probably wouldn't suggest that as your first thing you do.
I see. But then Manu also mentioned the direct connection. Was it Manu? I think it was Manu. That also what that comes with NFTs. And I was wondering, Carolina, do you find this attractive as an artist or as a curator?
What? Sorry, what was that?
The direct connection. So Manu, maybe you can talk about it a bit more. What NFT facilitates, and especially I think DoinGud platform, is there is this social layer which can come with NFTs.
Yeah, so for me, every token has a social ledger. It's just that we haven't discovered it yet. Because, for example, in the real world, when people buy a Pokemon card, there's a social ledger in that Pokemon card, even if you don't see it. Why? Because there are other people that have the same interests, and that brings them together, even if they don't see it. Or even if there's no platform that is bringing them together, but they have that same type of, let's say, interest, which somehow, from one way or another, like they are kind of like, let's say, connected with each other, even if they don't know it. With NFTs, it's actually even more tangible, or you can see it even more. Why? Is because you as a creator, I can, just create an NFT, give it to Chris, give it to Carolina, and I have kind of like, I can give them some kind of access if I want to. In another time, I can say, okay, I know the wallet of Carolina and I know the wallet of Chris, so I can, 2 weeks later, I can say, you know what, NFT number 1 and NFT number 5, they can come and join me in a stream that we're gonna have on Twitter. And I can just, they can just come in and access it using that NFT that they have in their wallet. So what it does is that it gives more power to the creator and also more connection also from the collector perspective as well. As I said before, like when you're following someone on Instagram, you as a creator, when someone is following you, you don't own anything. You don't have necessarily any interaction, any sort of way for connecting with them apart from being on the platform. But the platform can censor you. The platform can delete you, can remove you. With NFT, is completely different. The NFTs, you are holding it in the wallet, and I can create, let's say, a chat room. Maybe if the creator of the chat room censor us, I can go to another chat room, or I can create myself another chat room that can enable Carolina and Chris to join me in the conversation, for example. So that gives more power to the creator than ever before. I think more connection, direct connection to their collectors and to their fan base. And for me, I think that's going to change the way that creators interact with their fan base, because now in the future, I think that the fan base are going to be part of the creation process as well. So you can bring some people that hold your past NFTs and enable them to be part of a video if you're creating a film, or I don't know. There's so many different things. Like maybe what I'm talking sounds like gibberish here, but it's just, to me, it's just the fact that you have the opportunity to connect directly with their collectors, with the fan base. I think that's the killer app, to be honest.
And Carolina is a performance artist as well. So in which case you have some type of interaction with the audience. So does this type of interaction seem attractive to you as a creator?
Potentially. Like, I suppose it depends what work you're making and how they interact. Like, maybe it would make sense if it was something online and there was some kind of audience interaction in that way. Like, it could be. I mean, what sounds exciting to me is the creative possibilities. Like, I love the idea of like audience interaction, obviously, because I'm a performance artist. But yeah, like interacting into like what you meant. Like, yeah, it is interesting to me, but it seems like there's so many different possibilities, and it's hard to kind of know at this point, especially if you don't know what the applications are or like how you can use everything.
Yeah, and from investor point of view, Chris, like, does it matter? Like, if you're buying a piece of art, is it important to actually be able to, I don't know, get in touch with the artist or have this kind of social layer too?
Yeah, I guess let me talk for about. I know I've been taking more of like the investor role, but I can flip to the other side too. Like for more of like a photographer side. So like after winning the National Geographic Photographer of the Year, I did a lot of these gallery sales and stuff like that. And typically, again, I don't want to speak on behalf of all creative elements and endeavors, but at least from like a photography standpoint, you get your photography in a wall and a gallery and somebody buys it or whatever, but like there's not much direct connection between you and the collectors themselves. Sometimes they want to stay more hidden. Sometimes they don't necessarily want to reveal their identity. You don't always exactly know who it is. Like it's a little bit more shrouded. Versus, for example, like I'm really excited about DoinGud, but another platform that some of my work is listed on is also Uniquely. They're like a fractionalization concept. And so in order to be whitelisted on Uniquely, you had to go through this whole community process. And so they would host these like live Telegram discussions, kind of like what we're having here, but people from the community would like ask you stuff. And so people would just like ask me like, oh, can you tell me about this photograph? What's the background? Can you give me the story? What about this? Oh, I actually, I'm a part like owner in this thing. Can you tell me about this other thing you're coming out with? Like it's much more, again, like Manu was saying, it's much more of a direct connection where like the community itself cares about you and what you're doing. And you as an artist actually have to work to create this community around the medium that you're doing as well. It's not just like a one-way interaction, like you need to do stuff too. It's like this dual way interaction between both sides. And I guess back to your question, from an investment perspective, I don't know if it's like the thing we always look for is these new concepts of things that would be very hard to replicate in the traditional sense, and things that are net new that this technology enables. And again, it's TBD on exactly where all this stuff kind of nets out. So what Carolina is saying, like the creative, the innovation possibility is really exciting. But again, the thing that just fascinates and attracts me the most, like it's a very different modality than most creators are used to, most collectors are used to, and you have this ability to create all the kind of like these new experiences as well.
Yeah, there is all this promise of, like this great connection and possibilities of, promotion of art. But again, we have a question of adoption. And I was wondering what you think about like how far away are we because of all these, art being auctioned at Christie's. Can we consider that NFTs are widely adopted, or is it still to come yet so everybody will know about all these fantastic features we're talking about today?
I could take it if nobody wants to step in. I would say we're still very early on the adoption curve, like ridiculously early. We're nowhere near. As much as we would all love to say we're at mainstream adoption, we're getting sales and Sotheby's and all that. Again, if you're in these groups and in these DAO and in these collector communities, it's still very small. And the other thing, I guess, to have a more realistic lens on it is, by and large, most of the people who are collecting a lot of these things tend to also come from and be from the crypto ecosystem as well. That's why a lot of these crypto-related things or tech-related things or Bitcoin to the moon related things, like that's why a lot of these themes work really well, because that's kind of like where the collector base is coming from. Of course, we want this to grow over time. Of course, we want this to broaden out. Of course, we want this to touch non-other mediums. But right now, today, like we're still super early in the adoption cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and doesn't that kind of like that's interesting to me, because it does basically shape the type of art or the type of what you would create or put on there. Because if you, like, I don't know, if you're not going to make any money, I suppose it's just interesting to be in that space, to be part of it, but if you're not going to make money out of it because you're not really making anything that's sellable in that sphere, then it's kind of also like puts you off, I think, like to become a part of it, especially like, I don't know, having to join Twitter and having to like figure out those kind of things that have not really interested me before now. So it's like, yeah.
So would you say that NFTs might be not attractive to all types of artists, creators?
Yeah, especially, if you're making stuff that's not going to be attractive to people who are in that space and who don't potentially understand what you're making, or they might just want to buy something that's pretty, or like, so yeah, it's harder if you're making something conceptual that fits within a different space, like yeah.
And to be honest, this is like, for me, like this is why I wanted to experiment with NFT stuff, especially on the photography side, because like 6, 7, 8 months ago, I really didn't see a lot of photography represented in the NFT space. There were a lot of these like animation type things or short video type things, but like fine art photography, street photography, landscape stuff, I saw very little of any of the stuff represented. And given the fact that like I kind of understand enough of this, like, and I've done enough stuff on the intrinsic side, I wanted to do two things. One, I wanted to go through the full process myself and not just talk about this theoretically, but like do it. And then secondly, like the best case for me is, one, if I could help give back to some social causes, like that would be really cool for me personally, because a lot of my work ties more into environmental type stuff or kind of ecological type things. And then the second thing is, like, if I can use this as a showcase for other photographers to not just copy this, but also do it in their own direction, like get inspired to, do their own experimentation in the NFT space. For me, like that was like the main reason, like why I wanted to do any of this stuff in the first place. Because again, I do think right now there is a very skewed type of work that people tend to like, and I hope it only doesn't stay that way forever. But like we need the real creators and artists and people outside to participate in there, or again, it will never kind of break out of its very small niche it is today.
Mm-hmm. And so, Carolina, can you imagine it kind of happening that, you know, all types of artists would be attracted to NFT space, or you think some people would just like will be forever just kind of thinking like, no, I'm not going there? Or is there a time, you know, in the future where NFTs will be just such a standard? It's just like if you don't have an NFT, it's just like you don't exist, like you don't have a website, you don't have email.
I mean, maybe it seems like it would be that in the future. Who knows? Because I suppose, you know, when Spotify started, or like other, you know, when things like every industry changes, and this seems like the beginning of like a new industry and a new way of creating digital currency, or like for art, creating currency for art, for digital artists. Yeah, I suppose it seems like it would go that way, but I do, not that I know much, but it seems like quite far away from that, I reckon.
Yeah. And Manu, as a owner of the platform, and you were saying at the beginning that, you know, there are options for, like, you know, perhaps hosting longer formats of videos and so on. How much of a goal for you is to cater to all these types of creators, to make it as, you know, as easy as possible to publish your art, and, you know, in all different formats?
Well, the ultimate goal is that actually I'm not the owner of the platform, and that actually the DAO owns the platform, and that the DAO is the one that is deciding what are the different causes that should be listed in the curated registry of social impact causes. And initially, like, we're focusing on video and pictures and, you know, visual content and also audio content. But the idea is, you know, that the platform enables any type of content to be tokenized, and that every type of human expression will do good for the world. That's like the ultimate goal, and hopefully that, you know, that I never hear this again before in the future, that someone thinks that I am the one behind the platform. It should be the community that is running the platform and deciding how the platform should be managed, and what are the features that should be developed, and so on. That's the ultimate goal, let's say. So yeah, that's what I'm expecting.
If I was an investor and I would buy something, well, investor, collector, if I was a collector, I would buy something from your platform, and I would donate it to artists whose art nobody wants to buy.
Well, that's actually something that I've been seeing a lot within the creator community, is that creators are supporting one another, you know, and they get their creations bought, and then some of that proceeds, they use it as well for collecting other stuff that they like and supporting new creators as well. So right now what I'm seeing is that there's kind of like a loop that is being created with all of these humans that care about each other. And yeah, the ultimate goal is that there's no more creators in this world that are poor, because it's so sad to see that most of the creators are doing really bad financially speaking. And another crazy thing that I found out while doing a lot of research is that the majority of people that are behind nonprofits and NGOs and so on are actually artists and creators.
Yeah.
And to me, it's so crazy that there's no connection between the creator economy and the giving economy. And, you know, creating a bridge between the creator and giving economy for the prosperity of humanity, I think that's something that we really want to see. At least I want to see in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And one small comment to add to that, Carolina, to your point, like, I don't think all artists need to necessarily create their work to be related to the crypto ecosystem or any digital assets or whatever. I think Manu's doing the really smart thing of trying to connect this with social causes. So if you can have your work be closely connected to some social cause that people care about, people in the crypto ecosystem really love to help give back. And so you could almost, in essence, kind of escape that first loop in really promoting the cause, the work, the meaning behind it, and then talk about the piece you create itself. And again, you can build kind of your own community and ecosystem that way. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied to Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana or anything. It could be just something you actually care about.
That's a very positive thought. Thank you for that. I was wondering if you have any more questions to each other or any more comments.
I have a question more about, like, people are quite put off by this idea of like how Bitcoin is bad for the environment, or like Ethereum, or I mean, I don't really understand like the mining side of it. Like, how does that work? Why? How will that change? Like, won't that deter lots of people from getting involved into the sphere, to the community?
Want to tackle that, Chris, or you want me to try?
Sure. Yeah, I guess this is a slightly more controversial question, but I can take it on. The underlying security that pins the consensus for most of these blockchains is something called proof of work. I won't get into exactly how that works because that's like a whole hour discussion itself. But suffice it to say that the main input that they're using to pin the security is energy. The energy doesn't necessarily need to come from bad sources, so it's not prescribed that the stuff comes from coal or whatever. It can come from alternative solar, geothermal. They're building mining operations on top of volcanoes now. so there are other mechanisms you can to do so, but Bitcoin does consume a lot of energy. However, a lot is a relative term, so it depends what you compare this to. So if you compare this to our traditional financial system, it's not that much in comparison, but again, it really depends on your reference point. The good thing is there are, I guess, different than the NFT layer, there are many people working on the core consensus layer and trying to come up with alternatives of proof of work that are not so energy intensive. The most promising one is this thing called proof of stake, which Ethereum is moving over to. Other protocols like Solana are already using, which use far less energy because you're actually using the asset, the stake itself, to as the main sort of security input. But again, like it is a fair criticism today, and it is something that many people are working on. But also know, like, just because the Bitcoin industry does use a lot of energy, it also doesn't mean it all comes from the worst forms of energy. A lot of the energy actually does come from solar and wind and geothermal and these other means. So it's not purely like a black or white, bad or good type of thing too, just to keep in mind.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's important to mention that the greener you are, the more rewards you have. Like the less, let's say, the less energy inefficient you use, the more Bitcoins you're gonna get. So actually, the incentives are there for you to use the greenest energy if you wanna make more cash. So in order to secure the whole chain. And I think that there's a lot of misconception when it comes to this topic, to be honest. And I think that most of the people that are talking about this don't really know what they're really saying. And they're just saying it just to be cool, I guess, most of the time. But in reality, like the consensus algorithm that Chris was mentioning, like proof of work is more energy inefficient. However, like we don't know exactly what type of energy is being used. It could be energy that is being used from a volcano. It could be energy that is being used. Well, I don't know if you guys know, but in Iceland, there's a lot of mining companies. It's just because they're using the thermal energy from the volcanoes, and And this energy is energy that, if it's not used, is going to waste, and still is, let's say, green energy. Also, another thing that is important to mention is that at the end of the day, like, we can create mechanisms that actually do good for the world. If we, for example, after buying an NFT, like if some of the proceeds are used for buying carbon offsets or something like that. So this technology can actually be used for good, but also can be used for bad, as any other type of technology or any type of tool.
Carolina, do you find this answer satisfying?
Yes.
Good. That's kind of what kind of ending we want to our podcast, and we're running out of time. And I would like to thank you all. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Manu. And next week we're going to be talking about NFTs for social impact organizations. So, very close to what we discussed today as well. And next same time, same day, next week, remember to tune in. And thank you so much once again. Have a great week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you for hosting. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Anya. Bye-bye. Thank you, Chris. Caro. Bye-bye.
Bye.